The morning sun painted the wheat fields of New Eden in shades of gold. Marcus Kane stood on his porch, drinking coffee from a chipped ceramic mug. The steam curled up in the cool air as he watched his daughter Sarah tend to their small vegetable garden near the house. Sarah hummed while she worked. The melody drifted across the yard, mixing with the sounds of birds and the distant hum of farming equipment from neighboring plots. She was 16 now, tall and lean like her mother had been. Her dark hair caught the sunlight as she bent over the tomato plants. "Dad, the Johnson's harvester is making that weird noise again," Sarah called out. Wiping dirt from her hands on her work clothes, Marcus nodded. He had heard it too. The old machines on New Eden were patched together from spare parts and hope. Most of the colonists here were farmers, not mechanics. They made do with what they had. "I'll walk over after breakfast and take a look," Marcus said. "Mrs. Johnson's been worried about getting the crop in before the weather turns." New Eden was a simple world. Rolling hills covered in farmland stretched as far as the eye could see. The settlement itself was small. Maybe 300 people spread across family farms and the tiny town center where they had a general store, a medical clinic, and a communications building that connected them to the rest of human space. It was peaceful, quiet, exactly what Marcus had wanted when he brought Sarah here 8 years ago. Sarah climbed the porch steps and kissed his cheek. "Breakfast in 10 minutes. Don't let your coffee get cold." She disappeared into the house, and Marcus could hear her moving around the kitchen, pans clattering, the old stove lighting with a soft whoosh. Normal sounds of a normal morning on a normal farm. Marcus had worked hard to make their life normal. The other colonists knew him as a quiet man who kept to himself. He helped when neighbors needed it, but he never talked much about his past. People assumed he was a former city dweller who had come to the frontier to start over after his wife died. It was close enough to the truth. What they did not know was that Marcus Kane had once been Operative 7 of the Terran Defense Force Special Operations Division. They did not know about the genetic modifications that made his bones stronger than steel, or the cybernetic implants that gave him reflexes faster than any normal human could achieve. They did not know about the things he had done during the Centauri Wars 20 years ago. Marcus had buried that life the day Sarah was born. He had requested discharge from active duty and used his savings to buy this farm on the edge of known space. He wanted his daughter to grow up somewhere safe, somewhere far from the violence that had defined his younger years. Sarah came back outside carrying 2 plates of eggs and toast. She sat on the porch swing next to him, tucking her legs under herself as she ate. "I got another message from the University of Terra," she said between bites. "They want to review my application for the xenobiology program." Marcus smiled. Sarah had been fascinated by alien life since she was small. She collected books about the different species humanity had encountered during its expansion into space. The peaceful ones anyway. The Altarians with their crystal-based technology. The aquatic deep swimmers who lived in the ocean worlds. Even the builders who never spoke but created beautiful structures on dead planets. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. When do they want you to visit?" "Next month. There's a transport coming through the system that could take me to Terra." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Dr. Yanis says I have a real gift for understanding how different species think and communicate." Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. Sarah was brilliant, kind, and full of hope for the future. She wanted to help build bridges between humans and aliens. She believed in a galaxy where different species could live together peacefully. It was a beautiful dream. Marcus hoped she would never learn how dangerous that dream could be. "We'll make sure you get on that transport," he said. "Your mother would be proud." Sarah leaned against his shoulder. "Do you think she would have liked my choice?" "Mom never got to see any aliens." "She would have loved it," Marcus said, remembering Elena's gentle spirit. She always said you were going to change the world. They finished breakfast in comfortable silence. The sun climbed higher, burning off the morning mist. In the distance, Marcus could see other families starting their daily routines. Children playing in yards while their parents worked. Old couples sharing coffee on their porches. Simple people living simple lives. Marcus liked these people. They had welcomed him and Sarah without asking too many questions. When Elena's sickness came back and she died 3 years ago, the whole community had supported them. They brought food, helped with the harvest, and made sure Sarah never felt alone. Now Sarah was almost grown up. In a few months, she would leave for university and begin her own life. Marcus would stay on the farm, growing crops and fixing machines and living quietly until his enhanced body finally wore out. It was a good plan. A peaceful plan. Sarah stood up and gathered their empty plates. I should get the rest of the garden weeded before it gets too hot. The transport captain said fresh vegetables would be welcome when they arrive next week. I'll help you after I check on the Johnson's harvester, Marcus said. Sarah went inside to clean the dishes. Marcus sat on the porch a few minutes longer, enjoying the quiet morning. He watched the wheat sway in the gentle breeze and listened to the sounds of his neighbors starting their day. He did not know that 3 alien ships were moving through space toward New Eden. He did not know that the Zephyrian raiders had decided his quiet world looked like easy prey. He did not know that in less than 24 hours, everything he cared about would be destroyed. Marcus Kane finished his coffee and walked toward the Johnson's farm to help an old woman fix her broken machine. It was the last normal thing he would ever do. The attack came at dawn. Marcus woke to the sound of Sarah screaming his name from downstairs. He rolled out of bed, instantly alert. His old training kicked in before he was fully awake. Something was wrong. Through his bedroom window, he saw 3 dark shapes moving across the sky. Alien ships. They were too far away to make out details, but their movement patterns were wrong. Too aggressive. Too purposeful. Dad. Sarah's voice came again, high with panic. Marcus grabbed his clothes and ran downstairs. Sarah stood at the kitchen window, still in her nightgown, pointing at the sky. What are those? She asked. Marcus looked up at the ships. They were closer now. Long and angular, with weapon ports along their sides that glowed with orange light. He recognized the design from his military briefings 20 years ago. Zephyrian raiders. Get dressed, Marcus said, his voice calm despite the ice forming in his stomach. Pack only what you can carry in a backpack. Water, food, medicine. But Dad, what's happening? The first explosion answered her question. A farm 3 miles away erupted in flames as energy beams struck the house and barn. Then another. The raiders were working their way across the settlement, destroying everything in their path. Now, Sarah, move. She ran upstairs while Marcus went to his bedroom closet. Behind the hanging clothes, hidden under loose floorboards, was an emergency case he had hoped never to open. Inside were basic weapons. A pistol, some ammunition, and a military communicator. The communicator was 20 years old, but it still worked. Marcus activated it and sent out a distress signal on the emergency frequency. The nearest military response would come from Rigel Base, 4 jumps away. If they launched immediately, help would arrive in 3 weeks. New Eden did not have 3 weeks. It had maybe 3 hours. Marcus ran back downstairs as Sarah came down with her backpack. Her face was pale but determined. Outside, the sounds of destruction were getting closer. Explosions, screaming, and the high whine of alien energy weapons. The emergency shelters, Sarah said. We should get to the underground shelters. Marcus shook his head. The shelters were designed for weather emergencies, not military attacks. They would be death traps if the raiders found them. "We're going to help the others evacuate," Marcus said. "Stay close to me." They left the house and ran toward the town center. Other families were doing the same thing. Parents carrying small children, older couples helping each other move as fast as they could. Everyone was heading for the school building, which had the deepest basement on New Eden. The first raider ship passed directly overhead. Marcus could see its hull clearly now. Dark metal covered in curved spikes, with gun turrets that tracked movement on the ground. As he watched, the guns opened fire on a fleeing family. The energy beams cut them down without mercy. Marcus pushed Sarah behind a tool shed as the ship continued its run. When it passed, they kept running. More people were gathering at the school. Marcus recognized most of them. Mrs. Chun from the general store, clutching her twin boys. Old Pete, who ran the communications station. The Johnson family, including the grandmother whose harvester Marcus had been fixing just yesterday. The teacher, Miss Brooks, was trying to organize the evacuation. "Children first," she called out. Everyone stay calm. But panic was spreading. More ships were overhead now. Ground troops were landing in the center of town. Through the smoke, Marcus could see alien soldiers moving between buildings. They were tall and reptilian, covered in scaled armor that shifted color like camouflage. Zephyrians. "Sarah, I need you to help get the children to the basement," Marcus said. "Can you do that?" She nodded, though her hands were shaking. "What about you?" "I'm going to slow them down." Marcus kissed her forehead and handed her the pistol. "Only use this if you have to. If anything happens to me, take the children and run for the hills. Hide until help comes." Sarah took the weapon with both hands. "Dad, I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. You're the bravest person I know. You can do this." Marcus left her with the other civilians and moved toward the edge of town where the raiders were advancing. He picked up a hunting rifle that someone had dropped and checked its ammunition. Not much, but it would have to do. The first group of Zephyrian soldiers came around the corner of the medical clinic. There were 5 of them, moving in standard patrol formation. Their weapons were advanced energy rifles that could cut through the building walls. Marcus took careful aim and fired. His shot took the lead soldier in the neck, dropping him instantly. The others scattered for cover, but Marcus was already moving. He flanked left around the clinic and got another angle on them. 2 more shots. 2 more down. The remaining Zephyrians tried to retreat, but Marcus was faster. He had fought these aliens before, during the war. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their tendency to panic when things went wrong. The last 2 died before they could call for backup. Marcus moved to the next group. Then the next. He was one man with an old hunting rifle, but he was slowing their advance, buying time for the civilians to get to safety. But there were too many raiders. For every group he stopped, 2 more landed. And they were learning. They started moving in larger groups, using their superior firepower to simply destroy any building that might hide a shooter. Marcus was reloading behind an overturned farming vehicle. When he heard Sarah scream, the sound cut through his heart like a blade. He ran toward the school, leaving cover, not caring about the energy beams that lit up the air around him. He reached the school to find chaos. A squad of Zephyrian soldiers had broken into the basement shelter. The civilians were on their knees in the main hallway, hands behind their heads. Children were crying. Adults were trying to shield them with their own bodies. Sarah was standing in front of the group of children she'd been leading to safety. A Zephyrian officer, taller than the others and covered in decorative scars, held an energy rifle pointed at her head. The officer was speaking an accent in English. "You humans resist too much. Someone must be made example." Marcus was still 50 meters away. Too far. He raised his rifle, but other soldiers blocked his shot. "Please," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her fear. "They're just children. If you want to hurt someone, hurt me. Let them go." The officer tilted his reptilian head. "Brave little human. Your bravery is why you die first." Marcus screamed Sarah's name as he ran toward them. The Zephyrian officer looked at him and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then he pulled the trigger. The energy beam hit Sarah in the chest. She fell backward, her body smoking from the impact. Her eyes found Marcus's across the distance, and for just a moment, they were still alive. Still his daughter. Then the light went out of them forever. Marcus Kane, former super soldier of the Terran Defense Force, dropped to his knees in the hallway of a small school on a farming world at the edge of space. In his arms was everything he had ever cared about, and she was gone. Behind him, the Zephyrian raiders finished gathering their captives and prepared to leave New Eden. They had no idea what they had just created. They had no idea that the quiet farmer who held the dead girl was about to become their worst nightmare. The funeral was small and quiet. Only 12 people had survived the attack on New Eden. They stood around Sarah's grave in the morning mist, heads bowed while old Pete read words from a book his grandmother had given him. Marcus did not hear the words. He stood at the head of the grave, staring down at the wooden marker he had carved with his own hands. Sarah Kane, beloved daughter, age 16. The other survivors kept glancing at him. They had seen him during the attack, moving through the raiders like death itself. Before yesterday, they had known him as a quiet farmer. Now they saw something else. Something that made them step back when he looked their way. Mrs. Chun approached him after the ceremony ended. "Marcus, we're organizing supplies for the survivors. The transport ship should arrive next week, and we can all get passage off-world. Start over somewhere else." Marcus looked at her without speaking. His eyes were different now. The warm brown that Sarah had inherited from him was gone, replaced by something cold and distant. "I won't be leaving," he said. Mrs. Chun nodded and backed away. The other survivors did the same, until Marcus stood alone beside his daughter's grave. When the sun set, he walked back to his farm. The house was exactly as they had left it 3 days ago. Sarah's breakfast dishes still sat in the sink. Her school books were stacked on the kitchen table next to her application papers for the University of Terra. Marcus went to his bedroom and pulled up the loose floorboards in the closet. Underneath the weapons case was another container, sealed with locks that required his fingerprint and retinal scan to open. Inside was his past. The Terran Defense Force uniform was still perfectly pressed. The rank insignia of a special operations operative gleamed on the collar. Beneath the uniform were items that had been classified beyond top secret 20 years ago. Marcus pulled out a small device that looked like a medical injector. The label read, "Genetic Enhancement Reactivation System. Do not use except in extreme emergency." He had been given the injector when he retired from active service. His body's enhancements had been put into dormant mode, allowing him to live a normal civilian life. But the systems were still there, sleeping in his cells and nervous system, waiting to be awakened. Marcus pressed the injector against his neck and pulled the trigger. The change began immediately. Pain shot through every nerve in his body as dormant systems came online. His muscles began to rebuild themselves, becoming denser and stronger. His bones hardened as metallic compounds bonded with calcium. His reflexes accelerated as cybernetic implants integrated. With his nervous system, his eyes began to glow with a faint blue light as tactical analysis software activated in his brain. The transformation took 6 hours. When it was finished, Marcus Kane, the farmer, was gone. In his place was Operative 7, enhanced human weapon of the Terran Defense Force. Marcus accessed his tactical computer and began gathering intelligence. The raiders who had attacked New Eden were part of the Crimson Talon clan, led by War Chief Scarix. They operated out of the debris fields, a region of broken asteroids 3 systems away. The Crimson Talons were known for their brutality. They raided isolated colonies, taking slaves and supplies before disappearing back into the asteroid maze. They had been attacking human settlements for over a decade, but they were careful to hit places too remote for quick military response. What they did not know was that one of their victims was no longer constrained by the rules of civilized warfare. Marcus spent the next day preparing. He cleaned and loaded his military weapons. He programmed navigation data into his small cargo ship. Most importantly, he sent a message to an old contact in Terran intelligence. Colonel Santos, this is Operative 7, requesting reactivation of hunter-killer protocols. Target, Zephyrian Crimson Talon Clan. Authorization, Personal Vendetta Prime. The reply came back within an hour. 7. Good to hear from you. Protocols authorized. Kill them all. Marcus lifted off from New Eden at sunset. In the cargo hold of his ship, he carried enough weapons and ammunition to outfit a small army. But he was only one man, and that was enough. The flight to the debris fields took 2 days. Marcus spent the time reviewing intelligence files and planning his approach. The Crimson Talons operated from a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a mobile base. They had over 300 warriors and a fleet of raider ships. Any sane person would call it a suicide mission. But Marcus was no longer entirely sane, and he was no longer entirely human. His first target was a Crimson Talon supply depot on the edge of the asteroid field. It was lightly guarded, intended as a hidden cache for fuel and spare parts. Marcus approached in stealth mode, his ship's signature masked by electronic warfare systems. He landed on the asteroid's dark side and made his way to the depot on foot. The facility was built into natural caves, with only a small entrance visible on the surface. 2 Zephyrian guards stood watch, their scaled armor gleaming under the artificial lights. Marcus moved like a shadow. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to cross 50 meters of open ground without making a sound. The guards died before they knew he was there. Inside the facility, 12 more Zephyrians were going about their duties, loading cargo, maintaining equipment, updating supply records. Normal work for normal soldiers who thought they were safe in their hidden base. Marcus killed them all in less than 3 minutes, but killing them was only the beginning. Marcus had brought something special for this mission. A recording device that projected holographic images. He set up the device in the facility's main chamber and activated it. A 3-dimensional image of Sarah appeared, smiling and laughing as she had done just a week ago in their kitchen. Then Marcus attached a simple message to the recording. My name is Marcus Kane. You killed my daughter. Now I am going to kill all of you. He sent explosive charges throughout the facility and left. The explosion would destroy the depot and alert the Crimson Talons that someone was hunting them. But they would also find his message in the wreckage, and they would know why they were going to die. Marcus returned to his ship and plotted a course for the next target. The Crimson Talons had 4 other supply bases scattered through the asteroid field. He would visit each one in turn. As his ship moved through the darkness between asteroids, Marcus looked at a picture of Sarah that he had placed on his control panel. She was holding a small alien creature she had found in their garden, grinning with delight at the discovery. I'm coming for them, sweetheart, he whispered to the empty bridge. Every last one. Behind him, the supply depot exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the asteroid field for thousands of kilometers. The hunt had begun. War Chief Scarix would not sleep peacefully again. None of the Crimson Talons would. They had made one mistake when they attacked New Eden. They had left Marcus Kane alive. War Chief Scarix paced the command chamber of his flagship, his clawed feet clicking against the metal deck plates. The holographic display in front of him showed the locations of his clan's facilities throughout the debris fields. 4 red markers indicated bases that no longer existed. "Show me the recordings again," he commanded. His intelligence officer, a scarred veteran named Thaxel, activated the playback. The same message played that had been found at each destroyed facility. A young human female laughing and playing, followed by the cold voice of the one hunting them. "My name is Marcus Kane. You killed my daughter. Now I am going to kill all of you." Scarix had fought humans before during border conflicts. They were soft creatures, easily broken. Even their soldiers died quickly when faced with superior Zephyrian strength and weapons. But this human was different. This one fought like a storm given form. "How many warriors have we lost?" Scarix asked. 53 confirmed dead, Thaxel replied. "Another 20 missing, presumed dead. All our outer bases have been destroyed. 53 of his best fighters, killed by a single human. It was impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. Security recordings from the few cameras that survived showed glimpses of their attacker. A man in dark armor moving faster than any human should be able to move, killing with precision that made Zephyrian special forces look like untrained younglings. "What do we know about this Marcus Kane?" Scarix demanded. Thaxel consulted his datapad. "We accessed Terran military records. Former Special Operations operative. Served during the Centauri Wars 20 years ago. Genetic and cybernetic enhancements. Officially retired and classified as inactive." "Inactive," Scarix repeated, his voice dripping with bitter humor. "He has killed more of my warriors in 1 week than the Terran Navy managed in 2 years of border fighting." The command chamber's communication system chimed with an incoming message. Thaxel activated the receiver, and the voice of Captain Vorthik filled the room. "Lord Chief, the human has attacked Outpost 7. We lost contact 20 minutes ago. Long-range sensors show the entire facility has been destroyed. Outpost 7 was their main weapons depot, hidden deep in the asteroid field and protected by 30 elite guards." Scarix had thought it was unreachable. "How?" Scarix roared. "How does he keep finding our bases?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The ship's tactical computer, analyzing the pattern of attacks, projected a 3-dimensional map showing the sequence of destroyed facilities. "He is not just destroying our bases," Thaxel said, studying the display. "He is learning our supply routes, our communication patterns, our defensive strategies. Each attack gives him information for the next one." Scarix studied the map. The human was moving systematically through their network, using each victory to plan the next assault. It was not random violence. It was warfare conducted with surgical precision. "Double the guards on all remaining facilities," Scarix ordered. "Send patrol ships to sweep the outer asteroid zones." This human may be enhanced, but he is still just one man. But even as he gave the orders, Scarix felt doubt creeping into his mind. He had commanded the Crimson Talons for 15 years, leading them in raids across a dozen star systems. He had faced human military forces, alien pirates, and corporate security armies. None of them had instilled fear in him. This human was different. This human was teaching the Crimson Talons what terror felt like. Marcus Kane drifted silently through space, his suit's thrusters providing just enough propulsion to navigate between the asteroids. His tactical computer had identified the location of the Crimson Talon patrol ships, and he was moving to intercept them. The nearest patrol consisted of 2 raider craft conducting a standard sweep pattern. They were looking for him, but they were looking in the wrong way. They expected a ship-to-ship engagement, not an assault from a single man floating in vacuum. Marcus waited until the lead ship passed within 500 meters of his position. Then he activated his suit's magnetic grapples and launched himself toward the hull. The raider ship's armor was designed to deflect energy weapons and projectiles. It was not designed to stop a 200-pound enhanced human moving at 30 meters per second. Marcus hit the ship's hull with enough force to dent the metal plates. His suit's magnetic clamps locked him in place, while he attached shaped charges to the ship's engine compartments. The explosions tore through the ship's power systems. Emergency lights flickered as the craft lost propulsion and began spinning out of control. Marcus cut through the hull with a plasma torch and dropped into the ship's corridor. The crew was struggling to reach emergency stations, but the ship's gravity was failing and debris filled the air. Marcus moved through the corridors like death itself. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to track multiple targets simultaneously, while his tactical computer calculated optimal engagement strategies. The Zephyrian crew never had a chance. Within minutes, the first ship was dead in space. Marcus used its communication system to send a message to the second patrol craft. "This is Marcus Kane. You killed my daughter on New Eden. Come and die." The second ship's captain tried to flee, but Marcus had disabled his engines with precisely placed shots from the first ship's guns. The raider craft drifted helplessly while Marcus transferred over and repeated the process. When both ships were destroyed, Marcus activated his extraction beacon. His own ship, controlled by automated systems, emerged from its hiding place among the asteroids to collect him as he flew back to his mobile base. Marcus reviewed intelligence data collected from the destroyed ships. Computer files, navigation logs, communication records. Each raid provided more information about Crimson Talon operations. He was building a complete picture of their organization. Supply lines, command structure, defensive positions, and most importantly, the location of War Chief Scarex himself. The Crimson Talon flagship was heavily defended and constantly moving. But Marcus was patient. He had all the time in the galaxy, and his enemies were growing more desperate with each passing day. On the flagship, War Chief Scarex received the reports of the lost patrol ships with growing rage and fear. His warriors were beginning to whisper among themselves. Some spoke of abandoning the debris fields entirely, fleeing to another sector where the human could not follow. But Scarex was a war chief. He could not show weakness in front of his clan. Instead, he made a decision that would escalate the conflict beyond anything Marcus had planned. "Send messages to all Zephyrian clans," Scarex commanded. "Offer a bounty of 1 million credits for the death of Marcus Kane, and issue a new directive. Any human colony within 50 light years of our territory is now a legitimate target for retaliation raids." Thaxa looked at his commander with alarm. "War Chief, that will bring the full weight of the Terran Defense Force down on us." "Let them come," Scarex snarled. "This human wants war? I will give him a war that consumes everything he cares about." The message was transmitted across Zephyrian space within hours. Other clans, sensing opportunity for profit and revenge against humanity, began mobilizing their own raider fleets. Marcus Kane had declared war on the Crimson Talons to avenge his daughter. Now War Chief Scarex was declaring war on the human race itself. Neither of them realized that this escalation would ultimately lead to a fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The quiet farmers and peaceful colonists were about to discover that their species had protectors. And those protectors were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The hunt was no longer just about Sarah Kane. It was about the survival of human civilization in a hostile galaxy. And Marcus Kane was the sharp edge of that survival, cutting through alien space like a sword forged from grief and rage. The message reached Marcus while he was preparing for his assault on the Crimson Talon flagship. Intelligence reports from Terran Command painted a terrifying picture. 6 Zephyrian clans had united under Scarex's bounty call, and raider fleets were already moving toward human colonies. Marcus stood in the cramped confines of his ship, reading the tactical briefings that scrolled across his helmet display. 12 human settlements were under immediate threat. Families like his own, living peaceful lives on frontier worlds, had no idea what was coming for them. His personal war had become something larger, something that threatened innocent people across human space. For a moment, Marcus felt the weight of doubt. He could run, disappear into the dark between stars, and let the military handle the crisis he had created. But then he saw Sarah's picture on his control panel, and the doubt vanished. The only way to protect those families was to finish what the Crimson Talons had started. Cut off the head, and the body would die. Marcus accessed the Terran military communication network and sent a coded message to Admiral Hassan, commander of the Third Fleet. Admiral, this is Operative 7. Crimson Talon leadership will be eliminated within 72 hours. Hold defensive positions until then. Kane out. Hassan's reply came back immediately. 7. You magnificent bastard. Give them hell. The Crimson Talon flagship was a massive vessel, nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. It served as both warship and mobile command center, housing over 800 clan members and their support staff. The ship constantly moved through the asteroid field, never staying in one location for more than a few hours. But Marcus had been tracking its movements for weeks. His tactical computer had analyzed every course change, every communication delay, every refueling stop. The pattern was complex but predictable. The flagship would pass through Sector 7 in 18 hours. That sector contained the largest asteroid in the field, a planetoid-sized rock that had been mined for centuries. Its hollow interior contained dozens of abandoned tunnels and chambers. Marcus arrived at the asteroid 6 hours before the flagship was scheduled to pass. He landed his ship in one of the old mining shafts and began setting up his assault equipment. This would not be a surgical strike like his previous attacks. The flagship was too well defended for stealth. This would be a frontal assault by a single enhanced human against an entire clan. Marcus sealed himself into his combat armor and activated all systems. Tactical computers came online, feeding him real-time analysis of the approaching target. Weapon systems armed themselves automatically. Medical systems began flooding his bloodstream with combat drugs that would keep him fighting even through injuries that would kill a normal person. When the flagship arrived, Marcus was ready. The ship's massive bulk blotted out the stars as it passed the asteroid. Marcus triggered the charges he had placed in the old mining tunnels. The explosion sent chunks of rock flying toward the flagship like massive projectiles. The ship's point, defense systems destroyed most of the debris, but the attack served its purpose. It forced the flagship to alter course, bringing it within range of Marcus's real assault. Marcus launched himself from the asteroid using a personal rocket system, crossing the gap between the planetoid and the ship in less than 30 seconds. He hit the flagship's hull with enough force to crater the armor plating. Plasma torches cut through the outer hull in minutes. Marcus dropped into the ship's lower decks and began fighting his way toward the command section. The ship's corridors erupted in chaos as clan warriors rushed to respond to the intrusion. Energy weapons lit up the darkness while Marcus moved like a ghost through the maze of passages and maintenance shafts. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. His tactical computer calculated firing solutions while he moved, letting him shoot enemies around corners and through deck plates. His armor absorbed punishment that would have vaporized an unprotected human, but there were hundreds of them, and only one of him. Marcus fought through deck after deck, leaving a trail of bodies behind him. The Zephyrians tried everything: ambush, coordinated attacks, even sealing off sections and flooding them with poison gas. Nothing worked. The human kept coming, unstoppable as a force of nature. As reports flooded in from throughout the ship. War Chief Scarix realized that his worst fears were coming true. The human was not just infiltrating his flagship. He was destroying it from within. "Seal all passages to the command deck," Scarix ordered. "Flood the lower levels with plasma fire. Kill the human and everyone around him if necessary." But Marcus had anticipated this response. Instead of fighting his way up through the ship's main corridors, he accessed the external maintenance shafts that ran along the hull. The passages were barely wide enough for a human body, but they bypassed all the ship's internal defenses. Marcus emerged in the flagship's command section through a ventilation grate. The bridge crew was so focused on coordinating the hunt for him and the lower decks that they never noticed the great opening behind them. Scarix turned as his communications officer suddenly stopped talking and toppled forward, a smoking hole in his back. Behind him stood the human that had haunted his dreams for weeks, Marcus. Kane stepped onto the bridge of the Crimson Talon flagship with Sarah's picture clutched in his left hand and a plasma rifle in his right. His armor was scorched and dented from fighting through 8 decks of the ship, but his eyes still glowed with blue fire. "You killed my daughter," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly through the bridge's communication systems. Her name was Sarah Kane. She was 16 years old, and she wanted to help humans and aliens live together in peace. Scarix drew his personal weapon, a ceremonial blade that had been passed down through generations of war chiefs. "Your daughter was weak, human, as are all your species. That is why you will be slaves or corpses." Marcus dropped the picture and raised his rifle. "No, we will be the thing you fear in the dark." The final battle lasted less than 10 minutes. Scarix was a skilled warrior, enhanced by Zephyrian combat drugs and wielding weapons designed to kill armored opponents. But Marcus Kane was something beyond normal human capability, driven by grief and powered by technology that made him faster, stronger, and deadlier than any alien warrior. When it was over, War Chief Scarix lay dead on his own bridge, and Marcus stood alone among the bodies of the command. Crew. Marcus activated the flagship's communication system and broadcast a message on all Zephyrian frequencies. "This is Marcus Kane. I have killed War Chief Scarix and destroyed the Crimson Talon clan. Any other aliens who threaten human civilians will meet the same fate. Tell your leaders, humanity is not defenseless. We have guardians, and we are watching." Then he set the flagship's self-destruct sequence and made his way to the escape pods. The explosion lit up the asteroid field like a new star, visible for light years in all directions. With their leadership dead and their flagship destroyed, the remaining Crimson Talon forces scattered. The alliance of clans that Scarix had assembled collapsed as each group fled to save themselves. The crisis was over, but the galaxy had changed. Within weeks, every major alien government received copies of Marcus's final message. The quiet human colonies on the frontier suddenly seemed much more dangerous. Military strategists across known space began re-evaluating their assumptions about human capabilities. Marcus Kane returned to New Eden 3 months after Sarah's death. The colony had been rebuilt with help from Terran Defense Force engineers. New families had arrived to replace those killed in the attack. Marcus resumed his life as a farmer, but everyone knew he was something more. Children whispered stories about the man who had fought an entire alien clan to avenge his daughter. Parents felt safer knowing he was watching over them. Marcus kept Sarah's picture on his kitchen table and tended her grave every morning. The pain of losing her would never fade, but it had been transformed into something else. A promise. A warning to anyone who might threaten the innocent. As he stood in his wheat fields watching the sunrise, Marcus Kane looked like any other farmer. But the galaxy now knew the truth. Humanity had protectors, and those protectors would go to any length to defend their own. The age of viewing humans as helpless prey was over. The age of respecting human determination had begun, and in the quiet moments before dawn, when the wind rustled through the wheat, Marcus could almost hear Sarah's laughter carried on the breeze, approving of the safer world he had helped create.